My name's Rhiannon Evans. I'm the head of history at Chesterton, and I'm here to talk to you about a WOW lesson that I did at the end of this term with my top set Year 9 group, focused on the 1914 Christmas truce. So my WOW lesson was planned as the culmination of an inquiry into the causes and course of World War One. I was really keen to reveal to students the human stories contained within any larger historical narrative, as I think it's very easy to lose that perspective when we whip through historical depth studies and overviews quite quickly at Key Stage 3. One topic which has always piqued the curiosity of students is the Christmas truce of 1914, particularly since its use in a supermarket Christmas advert a couple of years ago. This led me to plan a mini inquiry asking the question, what really happened in the Christmas truce of 1914? I booked one of the music rooms for the double lesson because I was really keen to carry out the inquiry in a completely different setting from our normal lessons. I used Christmas lights in the dark, I played some carols as students walked in, and had lots of photographs of individual soldiers. And all of that really captured the students' attention as they entered the room and set the scene for what ended up being quite a poignant and very engaging lesson for them. I was keen to keep the focus on individuals throughout the lesson, so students' homework before this lesson had been to research one soldier from World War One. Some focused on their family's ancestors and others on a soldier who shared their surname, and some looked at soldiers who were local to us in Cambridge. And the lesson starter was then to work in small groups, introducing that soldier to fellow students, discussing what we're able to know about them based on sources, how old they were, and any other pertinent details or interesting facts that students had found out. I think that the opportunity to discuss normal individual people in depth, especially given that some of the boys in question were actually not much older than my Year 9 group that I was working with, really immersed students in the human story of the lesson from the very beginning. After those short discussions, students pegged their remembrance cards that they'd made, that you can see here in the pictures, to a washing line I'd hung across the middle of the room, which really kept our focus on those individual human stories throughout the session. The main research task then of the lesson was to use this sort of trove of sources that I'd found. So I'd found letters and diary entries, newspaper articles and photographs that I'd found on the Imperial War Museum archive website, alongside lots of other great archives that are online, to help them tell the story of the Christmas truce of 1914. We asked questions like, did all troops put down their weapons? How did the truce begin in the first place? Was there really ever a football match? Which was a question that lots of the football players in the class were really keen to answer. I ensured that each group had access to really different sources so that they ended up telling lots of different stories, and that really exemplified for them this sort of varied and diverse nature of historical narratives, and showed them that it's never a sort of simple process to piece together the story of history. There was a real sense that students were excited by what I kept referring to as real history, and the fact that each group's story at the end was so very different based on which sources they looked at and where along the front line the sources came from, kept interest levels really high throughout, and the presentations at the end, the storytelling that they did, were fascinating to listen to. We rounded off the lesson, as you can see here, with a little cross-curricular activity. So we focused back in on one source, which was an account of German and English soldiers singing Christmas carols together on Christmas Eve in the trenches. And I'd asked one student in advance to practice Silent Night on the piano, so he's a sort of talented musician. And I'd printed lyrics to the song in English and in German, and then divided the class in half. After a couple of practices, we managed a relatively acceptable rendition of the carol, sung in the round. This was a great experience for the students to draw on musical and linguistic skills within a history lesson, and was a really excellent way to finish what we all agreed was a successful WOW lesson.